So do you think that the government purposefully put African American people together and put drugs and took away their jobs on purpose? Was there agenda behind that?
I do think that when you put, and I've had these conversations with my African American friends, and some that were strangers and told me that I would never know because I'm white, and I understand. But from being on the outside looking in, I can see where things go wrong. Where if you're on the inside, you see how your life is. Right. You get a different perspective. Like they put black communities in an area, took away the jobs, took away the ability to make money, and they throw drugs out there, crack cocaine, which was in the 80s and 90s when crack was so bad. Right. So then it becomes, like I said, survival of the fittest. You got to resort to, well, I got to sell this because I got a family to support. Right. Well, then you have politicians, and this is my belief, give you these ridiculous prison sentences for the drugs that these guys are selling because they have to support their family, and puts them in prison for 20, 30 years for selling a little bag of weed or crack or whatever. But ridiculous. Nobody should be in prison for 30 years for it. So what that does is that takes the black male out of the home. And then, so it's a mom raising black males the best she can with no father figure there. I think that's an issue because they've got them locked up. And then, and I believe they do that to control their vote. Right. You have a single black mom raising 2 or 3 kids the best she can. And there's no job for her to do, so she's working at Kroger's or Walmart or something like that. So that's not paying the bills. So she needs assistance, she needs housing, she needs food stamps, she needs this. So then come election time, they come out with the, if you vote for this guy, you're losing all that. So I need you to vote for me so you can keep all this stuff that's got you going. But what they're not saying is, you vote for me, I'm gonna keep you in the same spot you're in.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That's an extremely good point, and I'm with you 100%. And I've done like research myself on how throughout history, how have policies affected black people, and what party was in control of the Congress, what party was in control of the House, and who was the president at any one of those given times. And equally, you have both parties. That's why I say like both parties have contributed to the hindering of growth of the black community from the beginning. And because we're, like you say, we've become dependent upon politics to solve issues that are not, our issues aren't political. Our issues are not only social, but it's basically on how America views us as a whole. Some people think like, let me get into office so I can make a difference. But what they do is they get in and create a status quo. They get into the status quo to keep things flowing on. So like in one side, you have Republicans say, hey, come and vote for me. Come and vote for us because I know you're tired of doing this. It doesn't make sense. But then when you have families who don't know another way, or who don't have the education to know another way because of the pipeline, education to prison pipeline, the education to NFL, the education to drug, like all these different pipelines that exist built by policies that we depended on the government to create. And that's why I say our issues aren't political, because there's no legislature that can liberate us. Because every legislature that's been that may have been like, hey, let me help you out, have been like a hindrance.
And speaking about presidents, and I want to hear from all of you, what do you think about Trump? Because I honestly think, I don't agree with everything that he says, period, the end. But isn't he the most consistent guy that we've seen personality-wise since day one to day, whatever day this is? He's been the most consistent in his foolery.
I've tried having this conversation before, but on social media, it doesn't matter. You like Trump, you're automatically racist, no matter what.
Right.
I don't see it. I mean, I was raised in a Democratic home. The last Democrat I voted for was Clinton, Bill Clinton, not Hillary. And that was just because my grandma told me that's who we vote for.
Okay,
And
okay.
I wasn't into
Same.
politics. I'm still not into a whole lot of politics, but I knew my grandma. I remember standing in line to get cheese and butter and peanut butter. So whatever my grandma needed me to vote for to keep her going, that's who I was going to vote for.
Exactly.
Donald Trump is Donald Trump. I would never sit down and drink a beer with the guy.
Okay. Okay.
And I've told this to people before. I didn't care for Obama, his policies, but I think it'd be cool as hell to talk to Obama over a beer because I think he's funny.
Oh my goodness.
I think he's got a good personality, but
And
his
smart.
policies I didn't like.
Right. Okay.
Trump, I like his policies. I work in the oil and gas industry, so for me to support my family, it is better for me to not have a Democrat in there because they want to go green, they want to go this, and next thing I know, my job's, I lost
Right.
everything under Obama.
I've heard several
Everything.
people in the oil and gas industry say that it was the regulations.
Yeah.
I had some people that I was friends with before,
But it-
I'm not friends with anymore because they voted for Trump. And I mean, I'm not. Like
Right.
I would cut them all out of my life if I could, except there maybe one that I'm related to. But anyways, so I know, right? But I did hear people say that.
And I did. I ended up living with my family in a travel trailer
Okay.
house. I
Yeah.
sold my car and had to buy a cheaper car so I could pay bills, and I couldn't find it. But it was so weird because his first 4 years in office, and I wasn't against him when I knew he was going to win. Who was he running against? Romney.
Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
John McCain the first
John
time.
McCain.
Oh,
was the
yeah.
first
That's
time,
what it
Mitt
was.
Romney was
And
I
Sarah
didn't care for
Palin.
him either. Didn't care for Romney. And when he won the first time, I think I even at one time had my Facebook or MySpace or whatever it was saved where I said, "Let's see what this guy can do."
Right.
I'm not, people were mad because they're Republicans. They didn't want him because he's Democrat. It's who we got. Let's see what the guy does. In the first 4 years he was in there, he seemed to be pro oil and gas. And then his second term, it just
Switched.
completely switched. And I've read articles after article trying to figure out why. Where did he go from being pro oil and gas to anti, and putting all these regulations, no drilling offshore, no pipelines, and all that affects our areas. We're on the Gulf Coast, it's nothing but plants. You start shutting the money down from the plants, then that shuts it down from going into communities.
The BP oil spill, I think, really made some people pay attention.
It
to
did.
think about some. I mean, that was bad. There was a lot of bad things that may have happened, that contributed to that. That seemed to be a little loosely regulated, and so I get it, and I can see that side. So it seems like Sean is saying he votes individual on an individual basis.
I vote for what's best for my family.
Right, and I can respect that. I understand that.
For sure.
I think a lot of times as Black people, we're conditioned to vote on
Emotions.
a collective.
Oh, yeah.
What's better for the collective?
Yeah.
Because I mean, probably fiscally, it probably would benefit me better to vote Republican.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in a higher earning income bracket, so I can see that, right? But I will not do that because I know it will hurt certain others in my race or certain other groups of people for me to do that.
Okay.
Now, even I had plenty of friends who voted for Bush. I can get with that.
Yeah.
The Trump thing, I cannot because I feel like he's part of the reason. He is not the cause.
Right.
He's a symptom of why we have these problems right now,
I
right?
like that.
But he is very divisive. Anytime you have a sitting president tell some women in Congress that maybe they should go back to the countries from which they came, and they're all from the United States, except one, that's problematic.
Yeah.
One of those women happened to be Black, and we all know telling a Black person go back where you came from is racist.
Yeah.
Right.
Period. Like, we didn't ask people if they thought it was. It's been racist.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still racist.
Right.
It's racist. You don't tell Black people go back where you came from. Well, when shall you leave?
Right.
Is my response. I'll follow you. You go back where you came from because you're not native to here either. So it's like, we can't have a president say things like that.
Yeah.
Or say things like, well, you don't have anything, when he was telling Black people to vote for him, you have nothing to lose. Excuse you? He's always making these statements that to me, I'm not, yes, I know him and his father got in trouble for that racism with their housing stuff back, years and years and years ago, whatever, his niece has said his father was absolutely racist. I believe that. It was the time frame in which he was, but you can't have a sitting president make comments,
Like
you know, like calling Haiti shithole country and think that this is
Africa
going to
has shithole
be okay. Why can't we have more, you know, immigrants from, what was it, the Netherlands? Why Haiti, these shithole countries? That's not okay. It's not okay.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I can't get behind looking past the person to vote for him, because now you're voting for someone who clearly doesn't like my people.
Right.
And because I am going to judge you based on the words that come out of your mouth,
Yeah.
the ones you say,
Yeah,
not
right.
what you typed necessarily. I will judge some people for the things they say on social media, but he said these things. Like, we heard him say it.
Yeah.
He's tweeted them.
Yeah.
So it's
right.
like, I mean, how many passes do we give the guy
Before,
we
yeah.
say, I get it, but I cannot
stand by it.
Racism in America, presented by The Courtney Hall Show, will return after the break.
Hey guys, it's Mark Reed, writer, director, and producer of the new web series dropping on October 4th on YouTube for you guys to see, titled Situations. Situations is a 6-episode web series that's full of comedy, drama, and touches on everything in between race and relationships. So please subscribe to the channel, Drip Productions, and I know you guys will like and enjoy it because we have the lovely Miss Courtney Hall starring in a few episodes. So follow the Drip, and I'll see you guys October 4th.
Welcome back to a special edition of The Courtney Hall Show.
We can't go any further without talking about George Floyd and the murdering of him. What do you think about that topic? What do you think about that situation? How could that have been handled a little bit differently? Was he actually doing his job? Was he using, excessive force? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think universally, 99% of Americans, when they saw that video, they disagreed with it. And I think it's really sad that didn't actually become a rallying point on something that we could agree on, because most people do agree with that. Yeah. But it's a lot of emotion got involved on both sides, and the assumptions that were made of why it happened and the solutions to solving those kinds of problems. I personally don't think it really even should have been considered a racial issue. It's an issue of police brutality, and so some things probably should be addressed in the police departments around the country to reduce those kind of things from happening. There isn't actually any evidence that he did that because he was a racist. That's just an automatic assumption that was made. It turned out that he actually knew the guy personally, and it could have just been a personal spite that he was doing that. But he became a poster board for a movement that does have legitimate issues, but I think because it was this video that circulated around that created so much emotion that people then started taking advantage of it, and most people don't agree with people going in and destroying a Target because of what happened. But that happened, and that unfortunately turned a lot of people against the movement right off the bat, which it was unfortunate.
I agree with that. When it happened, that video came out, like you said, 99% of people were behind the movement. And then when it got to the protests, people were still behind it. The protesters, the protesters on the videos I was watching CNN, it wasn't protesters that were rioting, that were burning stuff down, that were breaking stuff. It was a bunch of, looked like 19, 20-year-old kids on skateboards with my skin complexion. And I watched I don't remember what news outlet I was watching. They showed one lighting something at a store setting on fire. And when he turned around, he was whiter than I am. Wow. And then as soon as it was all live, and as soon as it hit, they went directly on to 2 black people that were standing there and started talking about how they just burned this building down. So that starts putting, the media's selling this as these protesters are burning stuff down, they're rioting. When did some get involved in it? Yeah, I'm sure they did. Once they seen it all happening, oh, well, let's get it, screw it, it's already happened now. But I'm in my belief, I'm 100% in my beliefs that it was an outside group that come in and got all that started. And I think it was Antifa.
Yeah, Antifa
That's
definitely.
even a real thing. Like, I'm always asking people, like, these claims about Antifa, though, sometimes I'm like, do y'all even know any people in Antifa? It's like, who is Antifa? I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist.
They have mugshots of people who were arrested.
I agree with you, but I'm saying, like, Antifa's not this organized group that I think the media and certain conservatives try to make them seem like. Right? I know people who are affiliated somewhat or know people that are affiliated with Antifa. It's not an organized group. It's not like, it's not even like BLM.
Opportunistic.
It is not. It's like you and I could just go do something and yell Antifa and then, oh my gosh, they're in Antifa. That's not a real thing. So, I mean, I do agree there are people that come in to, you know, start trouble, like from out of town, right? I agree with that. But like he said, when I saw the videos of people at the Target, I saw 2 white people pushing a cart with a TV. No, I'm not saying that it was only white people leaving the Target. Obviously, I mean, listen, somebody goes down here and, you know, gets this Target that's out here on 45 or the Walmart. I'm sure all the races will be in there like, oh no, what you mean I can get a TV? Especially like people with nothing to lose or, you know, just opportunists or whatever. And the cops are all busy because, you know, the police station is burning, so they don't have time to, you know, respond to the Target because sort of similar like to that situation, they had lit a police station on fire. It's like, well, where are all the cops? Well, they're busy. So it's like, you know, you're gonna need a lot of people that are going to go and steal out of the Target. I would never do that, but I have a lot to lose, you know? I'm licensed in a couple of states, getting licensed in another one, licensed in a federal court. I'm not risking my livelihood to steal, you know, $100 or $200 or $300 worth of stuff out of Target. But I mean, I'm sure there are people that will, but I do agree. I think that that's a lot of out-of-towners or people that, you know, they don't care anything about the protest. They're just looking for an opportunity to, like, do something. They're opportunists. They don't have anything to do with the movement.
And I think
and
that
once
is
they
very...
start, they back out and let all the protesters take the rap for
You're
it.
right, and then all of a sudden they show the protest and it's like, come on, that's not
I think it's highly important to understand the different, like, as I said before, as my pretense that Black Lives Matter movement, and like she said, it's different from the actual organization. The protest itself is just as complex as the whole thing. Like you have people who are probably focused on the idea of like, I'm protesting because of this reason. I'm angry. I'm mad. They have an outlet. It's like a balloon. Like if you poke a little tiny hole in a balloon, it's the first place it can escape is going to escape. Those moments of like having somebody open up a door to a store distracted people who are probably weak-minded in the sense of like their integrity. You know, they probably went down there like, hey, I'm a protest because I'm angry, I want some change. But then they see this thing like, oh snap, I can get this TV from my mom. Like, you know, like it's you have to like you got to take all those things into account. It doesn't take away from what the movement is actually about, what the protest is actually about. I think that to say that the killing was racially motivated initially is just throwing a plight, just throwing something just to kind of reel in views, you know. But in reality, as a whole, when you look at the whole perspective, like we can say that, oh, there's more black on black crime than there are police killing black people, right? We can argue that, but those are statistics. You can take those numbers and flip any way, because I can tell you.
More white on white crime than police killing white people as well. I mean, that's crime is committed in the communities in which you're around mainly. So that's like, it's like a mythical thing. There's no such thing, I'm gonna say, as white on white crime, black on black crime, Asian on. People 70%. Commit crime where they are.
70% of violent crimes.
Not just, you know, it's not a thing that's just with black people.
70.
Go ahead.
70% of violent crimes that happen, and this is a 2018 survey by the justice system, by Bureau of, I forgot what it's called, Bureau of Justice. I just researched it like a few days ago. But 70% of violent crimes are going toward victims that are black are from black people. 68% of violent crimes that go to white people are to white peoples. And if you put those two and two together in perspective, like, yes, we may be a little higher, but it's the same. You know, it's relatively the same in regards to how you look at crime, and then you look at the socioeconomic impact on crime itself. These are violent crimes. It did not change from 2017 to 2018. It increased by 1.23% compared to 1.39% in the black community. They're both issues. They're both issues, but they're like, you know, yeah, I know that people say like, oh, black on black crime, police brutality isn't a thing simply because black on black crime exists. But the thing of it is that when you look at the statistics in regards to black people being pulled over for the same thing that white people are being pulled over, and the rate that we are being killed or perceived as being violent compared to white people, that's where the disparity come in. It's not the fact that, oh, they just don't like black people, I'm just killing them. But when you come in to, like, say for instance, you get pulled over for a broken tail light. Black people die from a broken tail light. We die from not having a license. We die from having a gun license and being asked to pull it out to show. We like, those
That's
are
happened
things.
for white people as well.
I understand that. It may have. I'm not saying that black police don't kill.
Very rare occasion as well.
But it's not at the same rate for the nonviolent crimes. It's not at the same rate. No matter how you divvy that up, you can say, oh, it happens to us too. But when you divvy that up, it's a whole, like, I'm talking, the disparity is huge compared to when you're looking at like the nonviolent crimes and at the rate that we are not just being beaten or being framed or being, but it's being murdered, being killed for things that are nonviolent.
Yeah,
I mean, well, the Department of Justice has statistics on this. Black people are more likely to be pulled over by the police than white people. This is a confirmed statistic by the United States Department of Justice. I mean, that's why Bloomberg had to admit stop and frisk was a mistake, because it was affecting black and Hispanic people in New York at higher rates than their white counterparts. So obviously, you know, there's a little bit, we can't take race out of that. I mean, there is a problem there systemically with race in policing. And I think that that's what I think that people were really talking about with the whole George Floyd thing. That just gave people more
tipping point,
more of a reason to, like, once again bring it up. Because yes, I think that George Floyd's murder kicked this off because people were at home. So they had more time to go out into the middle of the day and protest, or at night, because they didn't have anywhere to be the next day, right? But also, I think that because so many people thought it was awful, it's like I could look at Timothy and say, this is bad. Can we try to talk about this so we can fix it? Whereas, you know, when Sandra Bland hung herself, allegedly, in the Waller County jail, he might have been like, well, she maybe did hang herself. Whereas a lot of black people were like, and we have a unicorn to sell you if you believe this. You know? And it's like, you know, like you said, now it's because we could all agree on it, it's a conversation that's like, okay, we might have not all been able to agree on Michael Brown. We might have not all been able to agree on Eric Garner. We may have not all been able to agree, you know, on Tamir Rice, which is horrible. We should have all agreed on Tamir Rice as a child. I don't know why there wasn't this much outrage over that child being shot by the police within 9 seconds of them arriving, but hey, whatever.
People are busy.
Now, George Floyd, I think it gave us all a reason to sit down like this and say, can we at least agree that there's a problem now? You know, can we talk about how to fix the problem instead of me just saying, you're racist, you don't love my family, you know, like, you
don't come to my cookout.
Can we fix it? Like, can we talk about it?
Racism in America, presented by The Courtney Hall Show, will return after the break. I get to interview amazing people who are doing praiseworthy things for themselves and for their communities. We get down to the nitty-gritty, and we have a good time as well. Catch The Courtney Hall Show on YouTube in a new season coming this summer.
I want to work with you because I feel like you're the start of that. Like how we got New York and you got Angela Yee's and you have all these different media platforms and things like that. Like it's important that you're doing this.
Welcome back to a special edition of The Courtney Hall Show.
So in closing, I just want to know, what do you think is going to change America as we know it? What can we do to change? And I'll start with you, Timothy.
So one of the things that I think we all agree on is a really great way to help the situation would be eliminating the two-party system that we have today. And I just recently saw a proposition that has been gaining some ground in the country of where you can actually vote for multiple people and rank them. And that would kind of break some of the cycle that we're in politically. And I think having more of these kinds of discussions, be less jumping to conclusions every time and listening to the media every time an event like George Floyd comes up, where they make more money off of people being afraid, and they are in the business of selling fear, in the business of selling conflict. And if we would just disconnect with the mainstream media and sit down and have real life conversations, we would get so much further.
Okay, Sean?
I'm in agreement with him on the two-party system. We've got to get, to me, I think all of them need to go, both parties. They got to do away with the career politicians that have been in the seat for 30, 40 years that are making $200,000 a year, but they're worth $10 million. Doesn't make any sense. And actually, we need to get people in there that are working for us. Right now, we're living for them. And that's got to change. And I don't know if it ever will, but it needs to. The media has definitely got to go. It's ridiculous.
We all agree with that,
And like you said, just respect. The people in this country need to get respect for each other. There's not enough of that going around. And respect goes a long way, especially having talks like this. I respect y'all's opinions, you know, and I'm open to hear all of them. There's too many people that have zero respect for human life, much less anybody's opinion.
First, I mean, I agree with you too on the dismantling of the two major parties. And like I've said since the beginning, black issues it's not a political issue. And I think there are policies that are in place that we thought were a political solution that can't be, if we take out politics as a whole, let's just say we throw away with politics and be humans and have these conversations. If people who call themselves conservative or liberal, if they just go and actually want to go to a barbecue or something now, if they at least just want to understand different perspective, be human and have conversations, understand what their issues are, and use their knowledge for things that some people may not understand from any perspective. Like, you know, successful people in our fields, you know, we have a perspective on our community that people that are equally successful on the other side that don't see that. And they, you know, I think that if we just kind of come together, understand, and kind of help build where we went wrong in the United States by taking politics out of our issues, by taking politics and the political views, and just be actual humans and say, this is morally wrong, this should not happen, I see where your problem is. Actually listen to what we're crying out. We've been doing it for centuries, what we're crying out, and have a heart to want to try and fix it. Go learn about the issues, get involved in situations and figure out where, you know, little things, giving time into it instead of throwing money, give time into our issues. I think that's a start to moving toward a better future.
Okay. Adria?
I just think if we have more discussions and, you know, try to all come together on what we can do to fix a problem, and then all get together, regardless of our party affiliation, to support the ideas that we come up with, then things might actually change in this country. I mean, that would help change the laws. And that's what really needs to happen. Some of the laws have to change. You know, like I said, we need to rebuild the police, the way policing is done in this country. But we would all have to sit down and agree, you know, on what we need to do to make that happen. And once we can all agree, regardless of if I'm a Democrat and he's a Republican and he's an independent and he doesn't vote or whatever, then we can all get together and get initiatives on the ballot to make the changes that we want to see. You know, just we need to all be the changes that we want to see as well.
I like that. Well, Timothy, Sean, Eric, and Adria, thank you so much for coming on my show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you all for watching another episode of The Courtney Hall Show.
It's just